Okay, let's have a little look at strap ends. Now I've got 3 different varieties of strap ends here, and they really do vary in prices quite considerably. So there are lots and lots of different sorts out there on the market, and they all have a slightly different look or a slightly different feel and a very different price. Now these are your standard sort of cheap and cheerful little strap ends. They come in a multitude of colours and a multitude of sizes. They're quite light, sometimes called belt ends, when you buy them on eBay or wherever you choose to buy them. And they do come in very different qualities. I mean, they're all fairly cheap because they need to be bendy, because that's how they fix. They actually bend on, and the little teeth inside will grip onto your fabric. So they're not sturdy, solid things. They are quite flimsy because they're designed to be bent. For me, I think these are great for straps because they are relatively cheap. And let's face it, adding more hardware will add more cost to your bag. They're also available sort of en masse, so you can buy a pack of 50 for, oh, I don't know, £4 or £5. They're not expensive, and they come in most of the finishes. I haven't seen these in rainbow finish, so I'm sure they're about, but I don't use rainbow hardware very often, so it's not something that I would keep in stock. So these are your sort of cheaper option. They look perfectly fine when they're fitted to the bag. I wouldn't use these if I were doing a strap that was sort of a decorative thing on the front of a bag, but for strap ends where you're just doing the end of your strap, I think they're great. Then you get something like these. Now these are much more substantial, much more durable, really shiny, heavier by far. And they fit using 2 little screws through the holes on the back. Now they are fabulous, and these look great on the front of a bag. So if you've got a strap that's hanging down and I've got a little blemish on or a little bit of something on the front of that, that's hanging down on the front of a bag, these are a great decorative thing. You can see they're really shiny, they're lovely, but they are more expensive, sort of £2 or £3 for a pair usually, so they are quite pricey. Then there's these. Now I bought these from eBay a long time ago because I actually thought they were these, and they're not. They are a sort of a single-sided strap in, so they're fine for something that was on the front of your bag where you're not going to see the back of the strap, because they are actually hollow at the back, and they have a very tiny rivet that basically just goes on the back. So once your strap is done, once your strap is attached, you have to cut it to the shape of the actual connector itself. The leather will or faux leather will sit within this small sort of a channel, a rebated channel, and all you'll have on the back is the back of a rivet. They are okay. They are more substantial than the squashy ones, more substantial than these, but not nearly as nice as these. And the price was, oh, police car going past, sorry people. No, it's fire engine. I live on a road that is a sort of a drag through from one side of town to the other, so often the emergency vehicles come hurtling along here at speed. You kind of get used to it after a while. So these are a rivet on, and as you would imagine, given that they're sort of midway between the quality of the posh ones and the not so posh ones, they're about midway price-wise too. I don't use them if I can get away with it. And on this instance, I'm going to use the folding ones. Now, I would suggest that if you're going to use folding ones, you also use a little drop of glue. And this is my go-to glue. However, being my, E600, being my go-to glue, I've somehow managed to leave the top off and it's dried up. So I actually don't have any of this at the moment. And it was only when I came to do this today that I realised that it had dried up. So I have got some more on order. But like the rest of you, when I make anything currently orders, when it says next day delivery, that means next week. So I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to use a little bit of Fabri-Tac instead, because that's what I've got here. So here's my strap, and as with my sample strap, I've done 2 lines of stitching. Now, you can put your strap ends on first if you want to. Make sure that the end of your strap is nice and straight. You haven't got any dodgy bits where you've done your stitching. Sometimes you get a little bit of a stretch to the faux leather. You can put your strap ends on first if you want to, but if you're using the very posh ones, put them on last because they won't go through the hardware. Ask me how I know. Done it more than once and then thought, bum. What we're going to do first is we're going to fit our tri-glide. Now, I'm using a basic standard fixed tri-glide. You can get them with a middle that moves, so it moves backwards and forwards, and they are sometimes thought of as being better for thicker fabrics. This one works fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one end of my strap through one side, and then I'm going to pop the other side of my strap down through the other side. So basically my tri-glide is being held by the centre on my strap. Let me just get rid of some of the debris that I've got on my desk here. Now you've got a couple of options. You can use rivets to secure it, or you can use a little bit of stitching, which is what I'm planning on doing. So you can pop a rivet through here. What I would suggest is that you turn over at least 1.5 inches so that you've got a little bit of extra space here to be able to put your strap end on. So about 1.5 inches, and I'm going to stitch through, because I haven't used rivets on my main bag. I'm not going to use rivets here. So I'm just literally putting it under the needle. Oh, it doesn't like that. What am I going through? I think let's try that again. I need a new needle by the look of it. I just bent the needle. Let's try that one again, shall we? I think possibly I'm asking my machine to do a bit much. I think that was only a size 16 needle, so let's size 18, that's what I need. I'll just do the screw up. Thread the thread through. Right, shall we try that again? It's reassuring to know that I have sometimes overestimated the ability of my machine, isn't it? I think that was a needle issue rather than a machine issue, to be honest. We're fine now, we've got a proper size needle. Now I do a couple of lines because I've just moved over a fraction, and just a back stitch just to secure in place. So just as I'm stitching, I just move over slightly so that I've got 2 lines of stitching just to secure my hardware in place. I'm going to get rid of my little bits off the ends. And then we're going to have a little look at putting this on. Now, check before you fit it that it actually fits properly. If it doesn't, you can skim off a tiny little bit off of either side, because sometimes these feel like they're a little bit narrow. They don't actually fit the entire strap in. Now that feels okay and looks okay, so what I'm going to do is, and I would usually use the Guttermans, but I'm going to use this because this is what I've got. I'm going to pop a little drop of glue along the very end and on both sides, just a tiny bit of my strap. I find it's a lot easier to put it on the strap than it is to try and put it in here. Then I'm going to take my hardware, position it over the end. Now I will get a little bit of glue bulging, and that's fine because you can wipe that off. And I'm just going to use my fingers to squash it down initially to make sure that it's where it needs to be. Once my fingers have squashed it down a little bit, and you can see that's on, but it's not, from the side you can see it's not secure because it's not been pushed down. Now I do not use pliers on these because using pliers will dent them because they are quite, they're just not tough enough to be used with pliers unless you've got those the big flat ones that you can use for squashing down key fob hardware. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something over the top to protect, and I'm using just a little bit of flexible chopping board, and then I'm going to use a hammer. Now excuse me, ready, steady, go. I'm just going to literally go across one side, and then I'll do the same thing. I've got an old piece of plastic ruler that I use, so I'm not sure what I've done with it. And now both sides, and because I've got something flat over it, this doesn't dent it, so that's fully fitted and in place. So that's my tri-glide on. Now let's find my bag. Ba, 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 ba. Now what I'm going to do with my strap is, I'm going to try and move the camera a little bit so you can see this. Can you see? Yes, you can see. Let's move the light out of the way. My tri-glide is here. I'm going to take the bottom end of my strap and I'm going to push it down. If I pull that strap connector out, I'm going to push it down through my strap so that it comes all the way through. Sorry, push the strap down through the strap connector. I've got a lot of strap here. I don't usually use this do this on my table. I usually do it on my big table, but it's easier to do for you here so that you can see what I'm doing. So put this strap all the way through. I'm knocking over everything on my table as well. It doesn't help. Ugh. Until your tri-glide is sitting on the top of your bag. Now you'll notice that the strap connector is on the outside. So my tri-glide is through, sorry, my strap is through with my tri-glide on top of the connector, with the strap connector sitting on the outside. Now I'm going to take the other end of my strap. I'm going to be really careful and make sure that it's not twisted, which I'm doing. And I'm going to come, if I hold, let me just try and show you this way. If I hold my strap, I'm going to bring it up through the outside part of that tri-glide. Well, that's where my, I had to join two pieces of faux leather together. That's quite thick there. And then I'm going to bring it down through the inside. Now, sometimes you have to squeeze that centre part to give yourself enough room to do that. Depends how thick your tri-glide is, or how thick your strap is for that matter. And then I'm going to give it a pull, and that is my tri-glide fitted to my strap. So my strap is now on that side with the tri-glide. And then on the other side, we're going to make sure that our strap is not twisted again. And the same thing again. However, what we're going to do this time with our strap is we're going to go in through the bottom. So we pull the strap hardware down or out from the bag. We're going to go in through the bottom because we want the join to be on the inside, not on the outside. And again, I'm going to fold it over by about the same amount as I did before. It's about 1.5 inches. I don't measure it, I just eyeball it. And I'm going to just stitch through there, the same as I did just now on the other side. You will have to move your bag out of the way. Let's move the hammer, let's move the snips. Now, if you wanted to put a rivet through, then that's fine. It's just personal preference because I'm not using many. I didn't want to use too much hardware on this bag. I'm not. Let's just move that over slightly so I can do my second line of stitching. I didn't want to be putting rivets on this one, so rivets are a lot easier if you're worried that your machine's not going to manage the layers. Let's just get rid of my threads. Oh. I've got a spare bit of thread caught in my stitching there. Let's just see if I can get that out, because that will bother me. I think it's just the end of my... There we go. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing again to attach our strap connector, our strap end hardware onto this end of this strap. And again, I still don't have any of the extra super swanky glue. I have done it with Fabri-Tac before and it works fine. The only thing I don't like to do with these is super glue, just because I make an awful mess with it. So let's just... So put something over to protect your strap end. And give it a little tap with a hammer. I'm going to just do the other one over the edge of the table because I can get it there easily. And there we go. You have one strap, adjustable strap, fully fitted. Now I generally hang mine. I'll fold it to where it needs to, where I think it needs to be. So it's hard to show you actually. Fold it to where I think it needs to be, and then I'll just kind of clip it, because sometimes they kind of sit a bit like that, and it's a bit ugly. So if I just put it where I think it needs to be, and I'll just clip it so that it kind of creates a nice little fold and looks nice and tight together. So there we go. That's my bag completed. My rainbow Lambda bag with rainbow weaving, rainbow strap, rainbow zipper fascia, and lo and behold, a rainbow lining to boot. And that's your lot, ladies. That's your Lambda bag completed. If you choose not to use strap ends, you can just fold over your ends so that your raw edges are enclosed, if that's what you prefer to do. It really is very much personal preference. This bag gives you an awful lot of options. So you can kind of do as much or as little as you want. For those of you that are still wondering about this stripy fabric, this is not fabric, this is faux leather, and I've used the same cream faux leather that I've used for the exterior of my bag, and I've coloured it in with Sharpies. Now before you do this, if you're going to try it, what I would suggest you do is take a piece of a small sample of your faux leather that you fancy colouring in, colour it with Sharpies, and then throw it through your washing machine on a quick wash and see what happens. You don't necessarily need to put any fabrics cleaner, some washing powder or what have you in it. Just see what happens when it's agitated with water. I've got some Sharpie colours that do not stay on the faux leather. So be aware that some will just wash off, even though they're permanent markers. And what I do is when I do this is I will colour it in, and then I will press from the wrong side of the faux leather, which I don't know if it heat sets it or not. It just makes me feel like I'm doing something to make it stay. And then I say I'll take a small sample, I'll have a small sample which I'll colour in, I'll press from the reverse side, and then I'll throw in the washing machine. Usually I just throw a tea towel in the washing machine with it, just so that it's something to agitate against. I know I've got a 30-minute wash on my machine. It's a 30-minute economy wash. I turn the temperature down to 0 because you don't need it on a 40 wash, because you're never going to wash a faux leather bag on a 40 wash ever. So I turn it down so that it's got no temperature, and I put it through the machine. It does come out slightly faded, but it stays, the colours stay put. I've got 2 Sharpies, and I think one was a bronze colour and the other one was a silver, so they're metallic, that do not stay on the faux leather. Do not. This effectively isn't, it stains the faux leather. So for me, it was an experiment, and I washed it because that was the only thing I could think of to see how this would wear. I'm still not 100% sure how it's going to wear, which is why I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this bag. I may well just raffle it for the NHS, or give it to my sister, who's a nurse, who will do fundraising with it. But yeah, so if you're gonna try this business of colouring in your own faux leather, for weaving strips it's fine because it doesn't get a lot of wear. But if you're going to use it for a strap or something like that, which does get quite a lot of wear, you might want to do a little bit of experimenting with the washing machine or what have you first, to make sure that your Sharpies will work. I also have some pens that are not Sharpies. They are something else. They claim to be permanent markers, and they're from Aldi's, and they don't work either, so do be aware. Not all permanent markers are equal. So there we go. That's my bag finished. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much for joining me for the sew along. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope those of you that are new to the sew along will join me for another one, having tried this, and thank you very much. It's been great fun.